not sure what you own, but this here is on the mark. Like a spiral from a 5-star recruit, we throwing darts, really focused. WD-40 couldn't stop the way we grind it. In the trenches, putting that work in, I relate to all my linemen. This is for the men, the boys do not belong here. Tiptoeing to the top, we doing cone drills. The hottest show in the world, you don't even gotta search. Steady putting in work, you see the sweat up on my shirt. They wasn't aware of us at first, we wasn't on their radar. Now every play that we make, they gon' say, oh, similar to a razor blade, we gon' stay sharp. The news ain't official if it's not on the mark.
What to do? Mark Henry here. The On Your Mark Show, proudly sponsored by Epic Sports Apparel. Every player compete live from the Fishbowl Radio Network every Wednesday. We up. Got my guy Coach Jay back in the building, man. How's everybody doing? We appreciate you joining us here every week. We're here to educate and elevate you, let you know what's going on in the world of sports from all levels, man. But first, Coach Jay, first of all, how you been doing, man?
Man, good. Blessed to finally be off the road for a minute.
Yeah, man.
Back in the building.
Man, listen, man, always good to have you in the building, whether it's on the phone or here in person. But season's about to start, you know what I'm saying? And you know, it's winding down. You know, the recruiting period is pretty much done, you know what I'm saying? So now the focus is on 26 and 27. Those classes are going to be sophomores and juniors now. So for those particular classes, what should they be doing, or what should they be thinking about when it comes to their recruiting to get that exposure that they need going into the season? You know, these are the times when practice gets ready to start. You know, the colleges are going to shift as far as their approach to recruiting because, hey, they got this season starting on their own now. But there's still an exposure piece that you have to have when it goes into being recruited. You know, squaring the dial is 26 class. They're rising juniors now. You know, they can actually be contacted now.
Yeah,
they can actually go on visits. So talk about those two classes and what they should be looking forward to.
So main thing is, number one, being locked in for the season, making sure that you're ready, that you understand your role, whether that's, you know, starter, backup, whatever, making sure that you're ready to put your best foot forward going into the season and being ready to show up on Friday nights. The next thing is those relationships that you built. If you went to these camps, met coaches, they followed you, keep those relationships going, because if you didn't get any offers, you know, going to the camps, but built relationships, now is the time to leverage those relationships during the season so that your highlights can get you those offers later on down the line. So it's not, you know, well, I met the coaches, now I just sit back and let, you know, my work show for itself. No, you have to stay in contact with those coaches, because out of sight, out of mind. If you're not reaching out to them, whether they're texting you back or not, you got to keep that door of communication open so that, you know, when you do send your highlights, they say, okay, well, I've been talking to this guy, I built a relationship, you know, I kind of trust him. And so those things are very important. And then going into the school year, number one is making sure that your GPA is the main priority throughout the school year. That has to be an everyday mindset, that you got to make sure that your GPA, if it's low right now, you got to fight as hard as you can to get it up, because you never know what level of school you're going to be playing at unless you've already have, you know, a plethora of P4 offers. But that GPA is going to be very important moving forward for you going into college. So those are just a couple of things that I think are mandatory, Mark, to focus on. You know, a lot of times kids don't realize how important the communication piece is. Oh, I met the coach, he followed me, I don't have to say nothing else.
Right.
And let me say this. Their job is to get guys that they can close, get guys that they can get to commit as fast as possible so they can move on, get that off their plate, move on to the next kid. So if you're not communicating, if you're not, you know, replying back, that shows them you're not interested. They move on to the next guy. So wherever you are on that board, you can drop easily when have other guys that are reaching out to them, staying in touch with them, doing those things like that. And then understand, guys, you can have 20 offers right now on the table going into your junior year, right? But you have to be able to understand that they're not going to take 10 players in your position. It may be 2, it may be max 3 out of high school. So you have to do your due diligence of staying on top of when guys commit, if that's a school of your choice. Because what will happen is, say you got an offer from NDU. NDU said, we only going to take 2 high school guys. And then next week, 2 high school guys, your position, commit. Guess who don't have that offer anymore? You don't. It's a done deal. It's a wrap. So you got to know where you stand with every single school. There are kids that's going through this right now, going into their senior year, where they had 25-plus offers, now down to 2, because guys are starting to commit a lot earlier.
Absolutely.
And they were playing a waiting game. Let me wait for something bigger, something better.
Right.
And now the table is almost dried up.
Right.
So you got to be smart and also understand that if you're leveraging something bigger for later, you got to have a lot of faith that it's coming. But my thing is commit early, and something bigger come, decommit, and flip.
Absolutely. I think, I was just about to say that you take an aggressive approach. Now you can't lay back and wait. You know what I mean? There's an urgency. You should have a sense of urgency when you have schools that ready to pull the trigger right now. You know what I mean? And the difference is the committable offer versus just a plethora of offers. I was having a conversation, and I've had some great conversations with people, parents, players in the last probably, I would say, 3 weeks when it comes to this type of thing. And the 2 biggest things that you have to take care of, parents and players, and parents, take it in you're honest on yourself to keep track of those grades. Having a conversation. So I meet a kid that can play. I was out at a camp a couple weeks ago. First time I met him. He has all the tools that you want, as a receiver. Twitchy, good in space, great hands. It's great hands. Now, he may not be a burner, but in the slot, he'll be a matchup nightmare. You know what I'm saying? So, I meet the kid, go through his Twitter, watch his film. It matches up, and, we put pen to paper. Week goes by, I get a phone call about the kid. You know what I mean? And so I'm talking to this particular coach, and, this is what's going on. And, he reaches out about the kid. And he proceeds to tell me about the kid. He's a great kid overall, but he hasn't taken care of business in the classroom since he was a freshman. Now we come to be a senior, and now the cookie's on the table, and he can't eat because he may be limited as far as that. He's going into senior year. He's got a small body of work, but he wasn't able to perform in the spring because he had an injury. All of those factors matter in, but now he's looking for a home. So it may be this scenario, and we'll talk about this, and we've talked about this. We've been talking about these kind of things since the end of January, as far as the recruiting. We're really when state stopped. So it's been about 6 months worth of game almost. You could go back and look at each week we've been talking about this. But now it's coming to a thing where he may have to go low to level up. Not saying the ability's not there, but when the factors come in, there's a whole piece that goes. You can take it out like a pie. You can take out the grades. You can take out the ability. You can take out, what the family looks like. Because, listen, they recruit the families. They recruit the parents as well. Don't think that college coaches don't look. In the last 6 months, I have these conversations with college coaches that are saying these type of things about the recruiting process. And it's a big deal to be recruited. You have to go through all of this. But pieces of the puzzle, pieces of the pie that you have to plug in to make it whole, you have to do that. So long story short, now – they're struggling to get these things, and the parent doesn't want to crush his dreams because he wants to play at a Power 4 school. The kid believes he can do that. Not saying that the ability's not there, but if you're a senior and you don't have an offer or they're not interested in you, it's going to be really tough for you to get on the board of a Power 4 school, a Power 5 school at this particular juncture for 2025. All positions, unless you have a name for yourself, you have that notoriety, you put up the numbers, and you're already going into it with it. It's super difficult at this point to get that type of thing done. Now, if you come into the 2025 right now into this season, and let's say you take a quarterback's probably the most scrutinized position. Let's go D lineman. You know what I mean? Let's say you come in and let's go with an edge guy, and you come in with let's just put this out there: 70 tackles, 10 sacks. 3 forced fumbles, and now you got to have the measurables because edge fits a certain criteria, and this guy's, let's say he's a tweener, 6'1", 250. Now, if you put up those numbers and it translates on the film, there's a possibility that at certain schools you might get group of 5, but you're going to be probably a D2 guy at the most, just based on that with no particular exposure or offers coming in as a senior. So, long story short is you have to have all of these things in your pie put together to get this type of exposure, get this type of recruiting done. And if you don't do it, then it's going to be very hard for you to get recruited. And Coach,
can't wait till the last minute.
Can't wait till the last minute. You have to take advantage of your opportunity now. The game is so shifted to where it's not in the favor of the athlete. But the athlete has to be proactive. The family has to be proactive. The people that are around them, that are giving them this information or helping them, have to be proactive. You have to have a punch or shot at getting recruited, Coach.
No, absolutely. I was having a conversation with a parent and her son a couple of days ago, and my first question is always, how serious are you about playing at the next level?
Right.
And, of course, he's like, Coach, I'm very serious. I'm really excited. I'm serious. So I said, okay, well, here's the thing.
Right.
Sorry, my phone, we're going live. So here's the thing. Let me ask you a question. How many questionnaires have you filled out?
Mm-hmm.
None. Okay. So do you have your NCAA ID number? No, sir. Going into a senior year.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So how many coaches have you reached out to since the season ended? 2. So, okay, well, just those 3 questions right there automatically tell me you're not that serious, because questionnaires are free to fill out.
Right.
All day, every day. You
Right.
can do that as much as you want, as often as you want. And you can DM coaches, and they can reply back because you already went through your junior year. So, and you don't know your core GPA. And that is a huge problem. Like, kids, you got to have that conversation with your kids about, are they serious? And then where's the accountability? Where's the action behind that? If you're serious, what are you doing? You can't sit and wait for coaches to say, hey, I'm going to get you recruited. These are, things that kids can do for free. Questionnaires cost nothing. It takes 2 or 3 minutes to do at every school. And the funny thing is, when you get on the phone with a coach, he's going to ask you in that conversation, hey, have you filled out the questionnaire?
Right.
Beat him to the punch.
Absolutely.
Do it now.
Absolutely.
And if you are a sophomore, junior, senior, and you do not have your NAIA ID number or your NCAA ID number, you are behind the 8 ball, especially going into your senior year.
Right.
That automatically shows you're not serious about playing at the next level, which is why a lot of kids aren't getting recruited. And so the one trick I told them to do, go ask your coaches, individually, hey, coach, do you see me playing at the next level?
Right.
And then the next question is, what level do you see me playing at?
Right.
And then based on those answers, that's probably where you're getting recruited from.
Right.
Or if they don't answer that question, that's why you're not getting recruited.
Right.
So it's a ton of different things that you got to focus on, but it's something you got to do every day to get recruited. We talk about the 365 days.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean working out. That means there's something that you and your family have to do every single day to put your kid in position to get recruited, period,
Right.
point blank.
Right. Yeah, it's not a lay and wait type of
No.
thing. You have to be aggressive about it.
Because it changes.
It changes
changes.
weekly, almost daily.
Yeah,
now.
it changes.
Well,
it changes in the sense of, again, no matter how many offers you have, when a kid commits, depending on how many spots you have,
right.
when that position is gone,
Right.
guess
It's
what?
gone.
It's gone.
Right.
So now I don't have that school anymore. I can't
Right.
keep saying I have 25 offers.
Right.
I have 19. I have, so as those doors close, now I have to continue to adjust. But if I just have this mindset that I got 20 offers and they're going to wait on me,
Right.
that's a tricky slope.
Right.
That's very tricky.
Yeah, and I think that you mentioned the questionnaires and things. That's a small thing to get on their radar, especially at the lower levels.
The earlier the better.
The earlier the better. And I was having this conversation. I get a message and coach, hey, what camp should I be going to? And it's based on what I'm seeing. I always tell them, hey, start at the East Central, start at the Arkansas Monticello, start at the West Texas A&Ms, the Texas Westlands. Start at those, because here's a secret. Those coaches there, let's say you're a freshman, those coaches, 9 times out of 10, the high percentages, they're going to move within 3 years.
Absolutely.
Because they're looking to level up. And if you build a relationship with a guy that's at East Central or Oklahoma Panhandle State or something like that, or Harding, which was the Division II national championship this year, out of a tough conference that they play in. You got any school in Division II that comes out of the Lone Star Conference, those are valuable colleges to go through and play at a high level, high Division II level.
Great football. Even like Mary Hardin Baylor, national champion in Division III, right here in the state of Texas. If you don't want to leave Texas, you have to look and do your homework about those schools. Develop those relationships now, as a freshman, so that you can get yourself started. You have to jumpstart your particular exposure at that type of thing. Or even shout out to the Flex Zone, which was a major function a couple of weeks ago. When you're a younger guy, those are the type of places that you need to go to get your exposure started. You have to get a bump in that so that you can see what it looks like. And even, a good thing I think that you told some of those guys, and we saw it, but, it's not our place to say it. But, the way some of those guys, conducted themselves at a camp, at a college camp, they would get eaten alive. And you made it that point. I think you made it that point so the parents could hear it as well. You have to learn how to camp. You have to learn how to be in those environments. And the earlier you start with your players' parents, the earlier they get the exposure, the earlier they get a chance to get on the radars of these colleges. Some of these guys that you see that are getting these offers as youngsters, when I say youngsters, as sophomores and freshmen, have been camping since they were 5th, 6th grade. All-star gaming around the country since they were 5th, 6th grade. So they have, not only the exposure, they've got exposure to the writing portion of it, of the people that are seeing it. And sometimes you never know who's going to be at that camp. You never know who's going to be talking about it, because it's easy for someone to pick up a phone call and like, hey, coach, you need to see about this kid. Don't think that these phone calls don't happen. These happen all the time. All the time.
Messages happen all the time. I just got a message from a coach last night looking for players right now. And it's evident in who you know and who you're exposed to.
No, absolutely.
Talk about that a little bit.
Listen, the whole thing behind Flex Zone, we say it over and over and over, is to get kids acclimated to what college camps is going to look like, how they compete. We don't let you stand in the back. You got to go and fight for it. We want you. We don't want you walking around. We don't want you, with your head down. It's fast paced so that you understand you got to eat. But it's in a setting where we're still coaching you, but coaching you to a point to where when you leave, you understand, okay, this is what it's going to look like at a college camp.
Absolutely.
We're telling every player, period, when they walk in, when they're warming up, when they're doing the paperwork, play both positions. You never, especially if you don't already have offers. If you're not committed, if you don't have any offers, you need to get reps at both positions, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to be seen, who's going to be there. Then we take all of that information and I send it to every camp circuit, all my camp guys around the country, so that they can get on their radars, because I feel like if they pick something up from being there, then when you go to the next one, it should show up. Right. And then we have so many kids that come back, and keep winning. Yeah. Over and over again.
Shout out to Kingston Nelson, straight out of East Texas. I mean, it's and listen, the coaches at the positions change every single year.
Always change.
And so it's not the same coaches.
And that's how you know the kid is putting in work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's completely different coaches, and he's still come and dominate.
Right.
So
right.
It is what it is.
On both sides of the ball. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the players he went against were different as well. Yeah, so it's a different pool to pick from. And, shout out to Kingston Nelson, who I think, is on his way. Shout out to Buddy Lopez from Rusk, Texas, man, tapping in. That's in East Texas, man. We're talking about East Texas, Jefferson High School product, guy you need to know, Kingston Nelson. Now, flipping the script, the thing about recruiting that's a great tool that they need to know about It's how to get there. And we mentioned the flex zone, you know what I mean? And you mentioned, speaking, with people on a personal level. What do they do when they don't have those guys in-house? They don't have people in that particular circle that know about these. What are some of the avenues that they can take to get that? Because sometimes that makes it a harder piece if they're just not seen. Sometimes people don't wake up out of bed with that natural ability.
Social media.
Okay.
You have so many different platforms. Yeah, I think information is readily available, and you shouldn't be afraid to try something early. Even if you fail at it, you still got to try it, because the worst thing you could do is do nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I think most kids don't really understand the earlier you can get a high IQ in football, the better. The earlier you can understand the sport, and the earlier you can understand playing multiple positions. I always tell kids, man, if college coach asks you what position you play,
everything.
That's the first thing should come out your mouth,
right? Because
that particular coach might look at you and say, okay, with your body frame, you don't look like that position to me, so I can't recruit you.
Right.
But if you say, coach, put me on the field, I'll learn it wherever you put me.
Right.
Then you might have action, because you say, oh, I can see you playing here. But coaches don't always project. They don't always see past what you say you are.
Right.
So if you give them a open, book to say, I'm whatever you want me to be, just put me there,
right,
and let me eat,
right,
then you may have a better opportunity, to get recruited. And we already know positions change.
Right.
A lot of guys go into college, whether it's a quarterback or, receiver, and they got to flip because there is a need over here this year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you could feel that need if you can change positions.
Right.
So it's always important to learn and understand that being valuable means that if they're not beating the door down saying this is your position only because you're so good at it,
right,
go where you need it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to get in where you fit in. Sometimes, we see it, we'll take the high school level, for example. An easy way maybe to get on the field, even let's say you've been playing quarterback for this long, but you're athletic enough to play another position. You want to get on the field early, maybe as a freshman or a sophomore, until it's your time. You may have to switch positions, or you have to wait your turn. You know what I mean? Perfect example of somebody taking advantage of their opportunity is Keelan Russell.
Absolutely.
And we've kind of seen it from the get-go.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Keelan Russell, 5-star quarterback, Alabama commit, Elite 11. All of the accolades he's gotten started when he was a sophomore due to injury. He was waiting on his time, and ever since then, he hadn't been off the gas. That's a perfect example of taking advantage of your opportunity when it comes to you and being ready. You know what I mean?
And no telling, what may happen as far as position-wise when he gets to college. But great example. And here's another thing, too, parents, camping-wise, even though the camp season is pretty much over, shout out to Anthony Williams, who's hosting the camp in Houston. Sunday. You guys need to definitely go if you have a kid that needs to get on the radar, needs to get a look. I understand football season is about to start, but marketing is marketing. Get him out there. That film, if he does great, you can utilize going into the season. So definitely go. If you're in the Houston surrounding areas, go. But a lot of kids play one position. They say, well, the team needs me at this position. Okay, fine. Go camp at a different one. So you can camp at your best position, i.e. Zion Childress played quarterback from sophomore year all the way through high school, but only camped as a receiver and DB.
Right.
And going to the NFL very soon as a DB.
Right.
Did not play quarterback in college. Walked into college playing DB.
Right.
Because he only camped. And they say, well, he had no film. He didn't need film. He had film being an athletic quarterback, and what they saw at the camp made it translate.
Right.
So if your kid is playing one position that he feels like, okay, it's not my position, you're on the field.
Right.
Go camp at your better position as long as you're putting work in during the off season to hone your skills at that position you're not playing.
Right.
Coaches can still see that, okay, man, if he's fluid here, look at what he's doing on the field at a position he's not even comfortable at. So once we get him, he's going to be all right.
Right.
So don't always look at it like that's a negative. You're playing. You can always go and prove yourself in front of the coaches at the position that you know you can play.
Absolutely. And then also, going back to camping, camp at the right position. Don't be out of position.
Absolutely.
You got to know what you're looking at. If you're a 6'2", 210 tight end, but you also play edge. Don't let them squash you into one. Now, if the coaches want to see you at that and they invite you at that position, that's different. But don't pigeonhole yourself into one when you may fit measurably wise into another one.
Or if you're a big linebacker and you can't cover, don't go to a camp.
Don't get exposed.
And don't go to a camp because you're going to be covering.
Right.
You're going to have to cover these little shifty running backs and you're going to get lit up.
Right.
So go at a position where you can dominate and they can see your linebacker film on huddle.
Right.
Don't hurt yourself like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, don't get exposed and, put a knock on you because some of these larger camps where you got 50 coaches there, you can easily, work yourself out of getting an offer by not performing.
Or getting recruited, period.
Period. You have to know these things going in, and those are the type of things that you have to do, man. I'm going to send a shout-out to a couple people watching. Shout-out to my guy, Coach Carr from the Dub, checking us out today. Shout-out to Dre Williams from the Free Game Podcast, checking us out today. Man, we appreciate you joining us right here on the Fishbowl Radio Network, the On Your Mark Show, powered and sponsored by Epic Sports Apparel. Listen, you have to get this information and bottle it up. I mean, we can go back, like I said, the start of the year, kind of consistent in what you've been doing. I mean, and Coach, the book itself, you know what I'm saying? You're giving them the blueprint. All you got to do is open the page and read it and establish it. And it's worked. It's worked.
Listen, I don't know how, people feel about it, but we've been getting great feedback.
Right.
It took me a lot of time to really get a great understanding, a great feel, just information, asking questions, and just getting a feel for it. Everybody's situation is different.
Absolutely.
So as long as you have, again, a blueprint that you can utilize and make the recruiting your own, but within the confines of what recruiting looks like. But if you don't know what it looks like, then the blueprint is absolutely
right.
The blueprint is a great starting point. Again, it's not the end all be all, but it's giving you the fine print of what it looks like right now, and then how you can move forward. Basic, simple things that you can do for your kid to understand what recruiting looks like before it changes. So once it changes, we'll come back out with another one. Stay tuned for the marketing piece and other parts of it. But right now, I suggest you guys grab it. Again, it's definitely worth it. Yeah. Honestly, it's worth it. Right. Everybody that's gotten it has gotten a lot out of it. High school coaches are buying it, love it. So I'm really proud of the work, and I put a lot into it. So
absolutely. We're going to switch gears a little bit. Want to get your thoughts on this particular question. Ran across this, on the new Texas high school sports page. Shout out to my guy, Rion Young from Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? A big-time guy, writes for 247 Prep Red Zone. Asked me to help him start this page, and, it's kind of bubbling this week. But a question, do you play an underclassman over an upperclassman if they have the size and skill? It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter if they can play Division I. This is a question that we pose to coaches, and I'll get your opinion on this. And I kind of voiced my opinion on it already. But do you play an underclassman? Let's say a freshman over a senior at a particular position, any position. If the upperclassman is not better, if the freshman's better, do you play him? Speak on that just a little bit. Over an upperclassman.
Might not be a popular opinion. The best guy should play.
Absolutely.
The best, if he earned it, if he put in the work during spring, summer practice, and he's clearly, again, as long as there's no politics, if he's clearly better, it doesn't matter whether you're sophomore, junior, senior. If you're not putting in the work to stay out front, if somebody come in and outworks you, no, you don't deserve to play.
Right.
You back him up because something must have happened, or again, the kid is just better. I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
And I wouldn't care if that was my kid, me. If you better than me, you earned it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So Now again, all the way around, do you know the system? You know, is your ceiling, you know, higher?
Right.
Right. And a lot of times that's what it is. You got a freshman that's coming in and he's locked in, he's focused, he's shifty, strong, fast, and the older guy's kind of complacent.
Right.
You know, like I've been here for a minute.
Right.
You know, I got it.
Right.
So I know a lot of people could look at it like, well, the guy earned the right. Well, then you earn the right to stay ahead. You know, if you know you got guys breathing down your neck, you need to do whatever you got to do to make sure you are the guy.
Right.
Where there is no question.
Right.
If they got to question it, then there's a problem.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I believe in no matter what level, the best guy should play. Period.
Absolutely. Well, I think it also, you know, if the underclassmen's physically and mentally ready to take that, then you have to actually put that into, you know, he's earned that spot. Don't give it to him, but, you know, make him work for it.
You got to earn it.
You got to earn it. But I think if the scheme fits, you know, they're mentally there and physically they can handle the stress and the physicalness of let's take a freshman coming in from an 8th grade to high school. And he's ready for the varsity level. He's ready. Don't waste him on the freshman level where he's dominant. You know what I mean? And he's just, you know, so much better than these kids. You can usually see if they're ready for it. You know, and you know, if they're not ready for it physically, then you bring them on slowly. You know, 5-6 plays here. You know, get him wet. You know, get him wet in the system. You know, and use those early season games from high school standpoint to see if he gets ready. Then when he gets in the district, he should be a little bit more seasoned. You know, you got 5 games in for a freshman that's playing varsity. He's not longer a freshman anymore. He's pretty much seasoned as far as where he needs to be.
Absolutely.
You know, and you can't let, you know, the politics go into it or, you know, feelings go into it. You know, most coaches, you know, and coaching staffs, the winning is the most important thing. Being successful with those kids is the most important thing. And you're not going to put the team before an individual when it comes to now. If you want to play golf or tennis or something, those are individual sports. But, you know, we talk football, basketball, maybe track's individual, you know, but usually, you know, that's a little different. You know, your varsity sprinter is going to be a little bit different from a freshman sprinter in most cases, unless this guy or young lady is just phenomenal coming in. Those are two different things. But, you know, when we speak about football, physicality, if they can match up, then the best player is going to play.
In most cases.
Right. So, I mean.
And you have a lot of schools, too, Mark, that and this is one of those things where you have to look at the school you're going to, because there are a lot of high schools that will not put a freshman on varsity, no matter how good they are, because they want to keep those guys, you know, all at an even keel. They might move 1 or 2 up, you know, for the playoffs,
right.
But for the most part, they don't care,
right.
You know, and that's, you know, you have to understand that that's how they coach their team.
Right.
So it is what it is. If you go there, you can't make them change it.
You might want to know that before you go there, though.
You should know that before you go.
Yeah.
And then there are a lot of high schools that are senior heavy because they feel like these guys earned it because they've been there
right.
long enough, and you got to respect that.
Right.
So again, things that you got to know before you go there.
Right.
So if you want your kid to be fast tracked, meaning have an opportunity to play at a freshman, don't take them to a school that's notorious for not playing freshmen, because it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
You know, or if you want your kid to earn that spot, you know, early, if this school is heavy upperclassmen, you know, because that's who they trust, that don't go to that school.
Right.
Simple as that.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just how you got to look at it.
Right. Switching gears a little bit, get your thoughts on this. So, you know, the big thing in the last couple of weeks, social media, is the Dallas-Houston thing. You know what I'm saying? And I probably know the answer to this. Who's been most dominant recently? And you can only look at on the field, it's what's happening. The argument is Houston's been there for a while. We're talking high school football here with the season just about to bubble. And the Dallas area has been so dominant across the landscape in the last, I would say, 5 years for sure.
Absolutely.
I think that, you know, the pendulum shift, you know, the seesaw shifted, in my opinion, to the Dallas area or North Texas versus Houston right now. Your thoughts on that and what you see coming up this season?
No, I definitely agree. I think overall Dallas has put together more, and this is, you know, 5A, 6A, put together more state championships over the last 5-6 years. And just, I don't know if you know, Houston so spread out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
so spread out when you have, you know, your ISDs in Dallas where you got one school, ton of kids.
Right.
You know, it makes it a little easier now for, you know, those guys to put together, you know, some dominant wins. But Houston is always, you know, right there. Right there. It's just a matter of, you know, a couple of schools saying, you know what, we're going to make sure that we put our emphasis on, you know, recruiting early. Right? Now, I say recruiting, I mean, you got to recruit. Simple as that. Whether you're doing it in middle school, you know, or recruiting from, you know, wherever you can, however you can, recruiting is a huge part of it. However you get it done, whether it's a parent doing it, whatever. Right? So, you know, you got your Shadow Creek, your North Shore, you got Atascocita, Summer Creek, you know, always very close.
Right.
Always close to getting there.
Right.
But one or two things is missing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And always close. So it's just a matter of when they can put it all together.
Right.
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 But it has to be, and I think, again, to go back to the thing, dominant, because you have your Alitos, you have the schools in this area that are winning state as well.
Right.
So it's the congregate of, you know, the multitude of schools.
Right.
So I think Houston is going to have to put together, you know, another few years.
Right.
And every year we're like, okay, this the year. You know, this the year. They got some pieces.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah.
And then it's kind of,
Yeah. Well, I agree with you to an extent in the spread out type of thing. I think that, you know, in my opinion, the most talented area is right in that I-20 corridor right now. And I can go on one side or the other from 360 all the way to East Texas. You can't argue with that right now. You know what I'm saying? This is coming from, listen, everything about me is H-Town. I love H-Town. That's where I'm from. You know, if you go ride with me somewhere, everything's H-Town. You know what I'm saying? But the D is running it. You know what I'm saying? And I have no problem saying that because, listen, I see these guys on the field from week to week. You know, it's about to get cranked up here next month. But I see it, you know, and you can tell the difference. You know, these teams have just been a step slow.
the preparation, honestly.
In the trenches too.
Yeah.
And speed-wise, they've just been a step slow. You know, and they hadn't been able to catch up. You know, and it's been a 2-year dominance when it comes to the DeSoto and Duncanville. Lito's been dominant for 12. You know, they got 12 state championships. I don't think anything's changing out of those particular areas. And you're going to have some usual suspects that want to come up and challenge now. I think North Crowley's a team that's going to be somewhere in there.
But still DFW.
Still DFW. You know what I'm saying? You know, Den Guys slowly putting together something. That's still DFW area. But, you know, I think that North Shore is also, you know, gearing up. You know, I've seen some things, you know, transpiring over there. I think Summer Creek's
We know they're always going to be close.
They're going to always be close.
You know what I'm saying? If they don't win it, they're going to be close.
Right.
They're going to be in the building.
And then here's another question that popped up this week. You know, we're tired of seeing the same teams. You know, people have been talking about this, you know, on social media. You got to beat them.
Got to beat them.
You got to beat them.
If you're
know
tired of seeing them, you got to beat them.
Don't step off the porch if you can't run with the dogs. You know what I'm saying? Beat those teams, and then you won't see them. You know what I'm saying? I think that's, you know, I love it. You know, I'm a football junkie. I don't care. You know, it's just the same team, you know, that people tired of seeing the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, beat them. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to see these teams. You don't want to see them in there. You got to beat them. You got to beat the big dog in order to beat the big dog.
And this is their time.
It's their time.
You know, if you go back and look at the history of, you know, Texas high school football, a lot of teams were dominant for a few years, and then they had to reset.
Right.
You know, and just like North Shore. You
Right.
know, North Shore was dominant for a minute.
Yep.
And now they're in that, okay, we lost a few pieces. You know, you have that special class, that 2021, 2019, 2020 class at North Shore was special.
Right.
Those guys were, I mean, they were
Demetrius
just
Davidson,
amazing.
they were just, you know,
they were
Shadrack Banks and those guys.
They were not to be denied.
Right.
You know, so after that 2022, you know,
there was a drop off.
There was a drop off.
Right.
So again, whether that was recruiting or whatever that looked like, schools are always going to go in ebbs and flows. You know,
Right.
Cedar Hill was dominant a while
Absolutely.
back, right?
You can go all the way back to Joe McGuire. You know what I'm saying? Then Coach
Very
Lynn.
dominant.
Right.
But then guess what?
Yeah, that was a lull. Yeah.
And now they're trying to, fight their way back. And sometimes it just takes longer because you have coaching changes,
Right.
you have administration changes. You can look at, I believe, and we know this, SOC. The reason why SOC is so dominant, one, the coaches are amazing.
They don't
right?
get enough credit.
The coaches
in my
are,
opinion.
oh my God, the coaches
Yeah.
are flat out amazing.
Right.
But the community, the administration. I was talking to
I
the
know where you're
admin at the city,
Yeah.
and he was like, Coach, I apologize, but during the week of Sox playoff games, we don't do nothing.
Absolutely.
I was
Yeah.
asking for like a request to do something special, and he was like, we're not even here.
Right.
Like everything, we're all hands on deck with
Right,
SOC.
right.
And this from the admin, from the DISD office.
Absolutely. I
He's
already
like,
know.
whatever they need, we
I
are
already know.
there.
Yeah.
And that's
I already
huge.
know. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you gotta have, it has to be a community thing that the parents gotta rally, do all the extra little things. When you go to DeSoto practice all summer long, look outside the gate.
Yeah.
You got parents, daddies, everybody outside cooking, barbecuing.
No
Make
doubt.
sure the kids got food.
Right.
So when you have little things like that, it serves a huge purpose of, how far a team can go.
Absolutely.
Because it's bigger than just them playing.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the thing, HISD, you got to catch up.
Got to catch up.
That's the reason, I saw something where, somebody asked, well, what's going on with HISD?
I saw that.
They're not like Dallas. Dallas sees their horse. You can go down to, like you said, at a certain time of the year at the DISD offices, everything's about SOC. They're getting behind them. You can't be upset about these things if you don't have the support. Fort Worth ISD has to catch up. People want to know what happened to Fort Worth ISD. Those, Dallas, Fort Worth ISD, San Antonio, those are we're talking ISDs outside of the outskirts, the suburbs. Those inner city ISDs, if you want to call it that. I don't like the word inner city. They're the city ISDs. They have to be behind supporting them, not only as students but as athletes, and that's the reason that they've fallen off in hard times. Some of it is the families in our generation have moved out to the suburbs.
And I think that's a huge deal.
That's a huge deal
in the Houston area.
Oh,
It's
I
a
know
huge
it's
deal.
in the Houston
Yeah,
area. I mean,
yeah.
I know that because I know families,
Right.
still connected to those guys down there, and they have taken their kids to a better situation. It's just because it's gotten so difficult to win in those particular things. And then there are so many schools. You mentioned one horse town, high schools that works better where everybody has to go to one school. You look at a school like Allen who's got 7,000 kids. And people have been, clamoring to, want to break that up, but they haven't allowed it. The structure to promote winning is stuck together. You know what I'm saying? And if you want to win, you have to have that. And that's one thing that, shout out to, Coach Todd and those guys over there. They don't get enough credit as a coaching staff. I've watched these guys in the fire and how they manipulate and coach together. I won't say manipulate, but just come together and, the scheme-wise, these are some of the best coaches in the country.
He could have went anywhere.
They could have won it. All of
Anywhere.
those guys have had an opportunity to get other jobs.
Yeah, he could have
But
went
they
anywhere.
stick together because of the continuity. They know what winning looks like.
And they have those kids' ear. Those kids are locked in.
They got those parents' ear.
them too.
Yes.
They got the community.
Community.
better
Yeah.
yet.
And-
yeah, they got the community
right.
on lock.
But it's a structure type thing.
It's almost like old school.
Yeah.
It's a throwback to when Dallas Carter was good. You know,
Yes.
when the Dallas ISDs, Houston ISDs,
Yes.
were dominant. Your Jack Yates and all
Yes.
that. The
Yeah.
community. It took a village.
It took a
and
village.
the village came in and
Yeah.
stood up.
Yeah.
That's what Coach Todd has been able to do.
Right.
In SOC. We've been there many times.
Yeah.
And just, in awe of, how well of a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
You know.
I love it. I love watching those guys from afar just operate because I know you see what winning takes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not just about coming in and they're dominant in every facet of the game, from special teams to defense to the skill positions, and you watch it as it goes. And the reason that they're successful, it's a blueprint. You know what I mean? You start there with the blueprint. You look at the historically the blueprint of organizations, of teams that have been dominant. Look at Austin Westlake. It stays the same. It doesn't change. Look at Southlake. The soldiers may change, but the head part of it stays the same. Alito, the same. The system.
The system is in place.
It's in place. You know, and you know, when you go to an Alito game, it shuts down on Friday nights. Those
the
kids
whole city.
Listen, the smaller kids are in Bearcat stuff, playing football, throw up tackle outside of the fence, not even watching the game with a dream of being Bearcats. And those kids come up into that, and they already understand that. They go to the summer workouts and see that. That's the reason, you know, people are going to attach themselves to winners. And you want your kid to be involved in that. And the reason these guys are successful, you know, is because of that. You know, and shout out to everybody that's getting ready. We were talking about this off air. Football season is here. I think the NFL has already started. I think the Cowboys go to camp tomorrow. And it's about to get locked and loaded, man. But we appreciate you joining us here today from the Fishbowl Radio Network. Great show today. Shout out to my guy for stepping in today, man. And we'll be back next week right here live every Wednesday from 11 to 12. Listen, follow the On Your Mark Show YouTube channel. You'll see this episode up later. And listen, onthemarksports.com, you will see these episodes as well on Spotify and on the YouTube channel. Follow us. Listen, we're here for you, man. We're going to educate and elevate you every week right here live from the Fishbowl Radio Network. Shout out to my guys, Scott Rapp and Maynard Mike, as they take us out.
Hey, this Manna Mike. I'm not sure what you own, but this here is on the mark. Like a spiral from a 5-star recruit, we throwing darts, really focused. WD-40 couldn't stop the way we grinded. In the trenches, putting that work in, I relate to all my linemen. This is for the men, the boys do not belong here. Tiptoeing to the top, we doing cone drills. The hottest show in the world, you don't even gotta search. Steady putting in work, you see the sweat up on my shirt. They wasn't aware of us at first, we wasn't on their radar. Now every play that we make, they gon' say, oh, similar to a razor blade, we gon' stay sharp. The news ain't official if it's not on the mark.